Hey folks, I just wanted to make a video for anybody who finds themselves getting beaten in Zwift races in the sprint. There's a lot of very powerful cyclists on Zwift, and my experience in racing on Zwift is if you wait to the end and just do a bunch sprint, you're really just rolling the dice, and a lot of different things can happen, and the majority of the time one of those things is that you don't win the race. So I don't have a very big sprint, and so it's something that I try to avoid whenever I can. And so I'm making this video just to give a couple tips on how to do that. And just looking at the screen here, you'll see that for somebody with an FTP of 320, probably a short sprint, sort of 15-second sprint of 750 isn't very good compared to a lot of the guys out there. So based on these stats, saying that I'm probably better off doing something other than waiting till the end. So how do you do that is the question, and I want to base my answers to that, or some tips to that, on the race I just completed this morning. It was this MGCC pursuit race, which actually the A's didn't have a chance in. There were only two A's, so they never caught us, and in the end it was just a race across the B's. And I ended up winning it, but not without some difficulty. So the couple of things I want to point out are in the following couple of categories. One, reading the race. When I say reading the race, I mean understanding what the other cyclists are doing, how they're feeling, who's likely to have a sprint left in them, who's likely to be able to help you break up the bunch so that you don't have to get into a sprint situation, that kind of thing. And also just reading the course. Obviously you'll need to know where the climbs are and where the finish line is, and therefore where you want to time getting up on the pedals. So let's get into it and I'll show you what happened.
So firstly, the best way to avoid getting into a big bunch sprint at the end of a Zwift race is to come up with some kind of move way beforehand. But it can often be very hard to do when there's a number of people, strong riders, who don't want to make that move, or don't want to support a break, or don't want to take any kind of a risk, and would rather just kind of see how the race pans out. And so that brings us to this situation that I'm in here. I'm in a group of 6 guys, and we're coming up to the last, we're in the last couple miles of the race. We recently just dropped 2 folk on a bit of a climb, and so the 6 of us are pretty evenly matched now, and we've been working together so far because this is a pursuit race, but we don't need to work together anymore because there's no chance that the A's will catch us. I know that there are a couple of guys who are probably slightly stronger. They've been doing the majority of the work, but basically I think that any one of these guys could probably out-sprint me if I leave it until the end. And so I kind of plan a move on the last climb of the race, and I think to myself, well, what I really want to do is split these guys up, and I want to pull 1 or 2 of guys away from me, and I would rather come last and third in a sprint than last and 6th in a sprint. And so my idea here is to punch it pretty hard on the last climb of the race and see if I can get 1 or 2, get the guys strung out, see if I can get 1 or 2 guys that will come with me, and we'll create a gap and work from there. And if that happened, then I made the calculation, I would be okay with coming third, coming an easy third with nobody to challenge. And obviously I would challenge, I would try to come second or first, but if I came third, I'd be happy with that. So that's the commitment that I'm making to myself. That's if I can get the group to split. If I can't get the group to split, I need to decide pretty quickly that I'm not going to keep investing energy, and then I just need to recover before the end. So there's a good amount of time between this climb and the end of the race for me to recover, and then I will have to just go for the sprint. So here we come up to this final little climb here, and I start winding it up a little bit early and just punch it right through to see who's going to come. There's a little bit of a response there from the other guys. Yeah, somebody's up there in the reds. Yeah, 8 watts per kilo. I keep it on and I keep it on. I see, and it kind of feels like there's at least this one rider, Weatherstone or Featherstone, who's come with me, and I feel pretty good about that, but he doesn't come by me, and I know there's another little rise just around the corner here, so I keep it on, see if I can keep him with me, keep the gap. And it looks like from the mini map there that we've dropped 1 person, so I'll take that. We can keep going and keep that 1 person dropped, that would be good. But the rest of the crew kind of bunch back around me, and I realise that this isn't gonna stick. Even if we drop that 1 person, it's, we got 5 people then, and it's still going to be a bunch finish. So the decision you have to make now, with 1.4 miles to go, is just to come back and relax and regain. And I can do that quite safely with this group because there hasn't been any other move in the whole race done by any one of these riders. Because it's a pursuit, we've been working together, but nobody has really kind of switched to the dark side and tried to pull away from the rest of us. This one guy at the front here on the yellow Tron bike, he's been riding pretty hard and doing a lot of work for the rest of us, but I don't really see him as a threat for sprinting away, so I'm still quite happy to sit at the back. Notice my power up is an aero power up, which I'm keeping until the last sprint. I could have decided to use it to make that move stick, but that would have probably just been a waste if I'd had more than a couple guys come with me. So I'm glad that I kept that. And now it's a case of recovery. See, I'm down at 100, 200 watts, and just hanging on here, waiting for see if anybody else would do something. But thinking about what I'm going to do on the sprint now. Thinking about the rest of the race. There's only 1 mile to go here. Thinking about how the rest of the race is going to pan out. This is that sprint that's quite long. Down on a descent down a curved road, and I know from experience that I tend to go too late on that sprint, and I usually come across the line thinking that I had more legs to go, and so I'm already thinking that I might go with something like 0.2 miles or just under, between 0.1 and 0.2 miles to go. I'm not going to wait till the feet start ticking down. And then something weird starts to happen here. This J Dodds guy at the front of our group starts putting down 5-6 watts per kilo. And he's trying to pull away from the front of the group all by himself. And he's not used a power up. And there's a couple other guys on the Tron bike. We've all got aero wheels on. Really hard to make something like that stick. And if he really was that powerful, I think he probably would have tried to move away before this. So I don't do anything, and I just let the guys kind of string out and catch him. It's actually good for me because he's doing a lot of extra work, and he's forcing some other guys to do extra work. And so they're wearing themselves down on this before the sprint, and it doesn't amount to anything. So here we are coming down, that's the last turn, and we're coming down towards the sprint now. And again, much less work. I mean, I'm down below 100 watts, just kind of waiting and waiting. Everyone's looking at each other, proverbially, just waiting and waiting. Got my aero ready to go, and it's still 0.4 miles. It's not quite ready. There's 0.3. I use my aero and then kind of wind it up. Bit of a mistake. I probably should have just punched it through from behind as quickly as I could, but I just wound it up from somewhere near the front there, and nobody comes with me, to my surprise. There's people standing up and responding, but the one person that responds the strongest is this Featherstone guy, and he comes by me extremely quickly. I've still got my aero on, and I've still got the legs because I went early enough, knowing myself, and I was able just to come by and take him on the line right there. So I guess one thing I knew about the group is that there wouldn't be anybody outright more strong than me. But if I had left my sprint till later, I'm confident that Featherstone guy would have beaten me. He puts out more on the power curve over a shorter amount of time. He has a higher watts per kilo ratio. He has a better bike. Probably could have taken me if I'd left it a bit later. So if you're not a big sprinter, don't be scared to go early, and just know yourself. You know that I've seen guys go off on the sprint from as long as 0.4 miles before the race. So yeah, hopefully you learned a couple things from this. May you make lots of moves way before the end of the race, and may many of them stick for you. Good luck.